The moment Adam Schiff accused Tulsi Gabbard of being a Russian asset under oath, he made the kind of mistake that ends careers. He forgot he was talking to a combat veteran who'd actually read the classified intelligence he'd been lying about for 6 years. Schiff arrived at the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing with the confidence of someone who'd leaked to the media hundreds of times without consequence, who'd claimed to possess evidence he never had, who'd spent years making accusations that never resulted in accountability. He wore his usual dark suit, and that particular expression he'd perfected, eyebrows knit, voice grave, the look of a man who knows secrets you don't, and is protecting America from threats only he can see. It was all performance. It always had been. Tulsi Gabbard came dressed for war. She sat at the witness table in a dark blue suit, American flag pin on her lapel, back straight from 2 decades in the Army National Guard. Before her sat 2 items, a classified binder marked Top Secret SCI and a leather folder of declassified documents she'd personally authorized that morning. She'd spent weeks preparing, knowing this day would come, knowing Schiff couldn't resist the temptation to grandstand for the cameras. She'd reviewed every transcript, every leak, every television appearance. She'd cross-referenced them with the actual intelligence reports Schiff claimed to have seen. The discrepancies were damning. Schiff began his opening statement with that familiar portentous tone. "Director Gabbard, your nomination raises serious concerns. Your past statements regarding Syria and Russia, your meeting with Bashar al-Assad, your skepticism of intelligence community assessments, these raise legitimate questions about your judgment." He was warming up now, getting into his rhythm. "Some intelligence professionals have suggested that your positions align suspiciously well with Russian interests. That perhaps, whether intentionally or not, you've been compromised by Russian influence operations." The room went silent. He'd just accused the Director of National Intelligence of being a Russian asset under oath, on live television, in a Senate hearing. Tulsi smiled slightly, the kind of smile a poker player gives when they realize their opponent has gone all in on a bluff. "Senator Schiff," she said, voice calm and clear, "that's a very serious accusation under oath." Schiff tried to backpedal. "I said some professionals have suggested—" "No," Tulsi interrupted gently. "You said my positions align suspiciously well with Russian interests, and suggested I might be compromised. Those aren't hypotheticals, those are accusations." She opened the classified binder. "As Director of National Intelligence, I have access to all intelligence, all of it. Every assessment, every report, every piece of classified information about foreign influence operations, including any intelligence regarding me. Do you have any evidence for that claim? Any intelligence whatsoever suggesting I'm compromised by Russia?" Schiff shifted in his seat. "Your public statements speak for themselves." "Senator," Tulsi's voice was harder now, "you just accused me of treason with 0 evidence under oath. That's either true, which means you have intelligence supporting it and should present it immediately, or it's false, which means you just committed perjury in your opening statement. Which is it?" The silence was absolute. Tulsi leaned forward. "Let me help you understand the position you're in. In 2017, you went on MSNBC on March 22nd specifically and told Chuck Todd you'd seen more than circumstantial evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. You repeated that claim 47 documented times across every major network. Then, in April 2019, the Mueller report came out, 22 months, $40 million, 19 lawyers, 2,000 subpoenas, finding no collusion, no conspiracy, no coordination. So where was your evidence, Senator? The direct evidence you claimed to have seen?" Schiff's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in 6 years, he had nothing. Tulsi wasn't done. She produced document after document. The IG report showing 17 significant errors in FISA applications, Schiff's memo defending those abuses, his signature on the letter calling Hunter Biden's laptop Russian disinformation, the timeline of leaks after every closed hearing he'd attended. "You've made a career of lying about intelligence," she said, voice rising. "You've leaked classified information to damage political opponents. You've destroyed evidence rather than preserve it. You've raised $38 million from lies about Russian collusion. You've built a Senate career on fraud." She stood up, military bearing unmistakable. "Senator Schiff, you came here to question my fitness to serve. But this hearing didn't expose me. It exposed you. Every American watching now knows you lied about Russia. You lied about FISA. You lied about the laptop. You leaked classified information. You destroyed evidence. You profited from fraud. You've made more false statements about intelligence in 6 years than most people make in a lifetime." She looked directly at him. "So here's my question, Senator. When are you going to apologize? To the American people you lied to the donors you defrauded, to the Trump officials you falsely accused, to Carter Page, whose civil liberties you violated, to the intelligence community you weaponized, to everyone you've deceived for 6 years?" Schiff sat frozen, mouth open, no words coming out. For the first time in his career, the man who always had something to say about everything had nothing. Tulsi gathered her papers and looked at Chairman Warner. "I'm done with my testimony, Mr. Chairman. Senator Schiff can continue his inquisition if he'd like, but I've said what needed saying." As she walked out, the hearing room erupted, not in cheers, but in the kind of stunned silence that follows when truth lands like a thunderbolt. Within hours, the footage had 47 million views. Within days, it had 127 million. The hashtag "Who's the Real Threat" trended for 6 straight days. Adam Schiff's approval rating in California dropped 34 points in 2 weeks. Ethics complaints were filed. Bar complaints were filed. Major donors pulled back. Even Barack Obama reportedly distanced himself, saying Schiff's credibility problems are becoming the party's credibility problems. 3 weeks later, Schiff announced he would not seek re-election to Senate leadership positions. He would remain a senator, he said, but would focus on serving Californians rather than seeking prominence in Washington, which everyone understood to mean he'd been exiled and was trying to make it sound voluntary. The hearing fundamentally changed the political landscape. It showed that documentation could defeat deflection, that facts could overcome narrative control, that a prepared opponent with receipts could destroy a practiced liar. Most importantly, it answered the question that had hung over American politics for years: who's the real threat to our democracy? Not the combat veteran asking tough questions. The politician lying about the answers. Tulsi Gabbard had asked the simplest question in American politics: who's the real threat? Adam Schiff's silence was the loudest answer of his career. The silence that followed Tulsi's final question wasn't just a moment. It was an epic. For 6 full seconds, the only sound in the marble chamber was the soft whir of C-SPAN's camera tracking Schiff's face as it cycled through every shade of mortification. Blood drained white, then crimson, then a sickly gray that matched the institutional carpet. The stillness was so complete that spectators could hear the faint click of Tulsi's binder closing, a sound like a gavel coming down on 30 years of manufactured narrative. Then the dam broke. 1. The gallery. A woman in row 3, an Air Force mom in an American Legion jacket, stood up. No applause, no chant, just the simple act of rising to her feet. Behind her, a junior intelligence analyst still in his probationary badge did the same. Within 5 seconds, half the audience was standing, veterans and staffers, and even a few reporters who'd spent 6 years laundering Schiff's leaks. The cameras caught it all, the moment when the Emperor's new clothes became visible to everyone, including the tailors. 2. The livestream explosion. YouTube's chat scrolled faster than human eyes could read. She just ended a senator. Playback speed 0.25x so I can watch him die in slow motion. Tulsi 47, Schiff 0. The clip hit 10 million views before the hearing gavel officially adjourned. By midnight, someone had auto-tuned Schiff's silence into a 42-second EDM drop titled No Collusion, Tulsi Remix that cracked Spotify's viral 50. 3. The Schiff War Room Meltdown. Inside his Dirksen office, staffers stared at the TV in horror. One comms aide, who'd drafted the Russian asset talking points, grabbed her purse and left without a word, resignation email already queued on her phone. Another tried to spin a statement. Senator stands by his oversight record. The senior strategist threw it in the trash. We don't put out a press release when the plane has already hit the mountain. The money drain. Act Blue's internal dashboard showed $1.8 million in scheduled Schiff donations paused within 90 minutes. The pop-up message, account frozen, compliance review. A Silicon Valley bundler texted, can't save him, ship the lifeboats to Katie Porter. Even the consultants who'd skimmed 15% off his $38 million Russia collusion haul quietly changed their LinkedIn headlines to Issue Advocacy Strategist Open to New Opportunities. Divers. The legal avalanche. By dawn, 3 separate entities had filed formal complaints. The Senate Ethics Committee, 17 pages, 43 footnotes, subject line, perjury and fraudulent fundraising. The California State Bar, alleging violation of Rule 1.3, candor toward tribunal. A class action firm representing 24,000 small-dollar donors demanding restitution plus treble damages under California's consumer protection statutes. The headline in Courthouse News, Schiff sued for $114 million, exact amount he raised by claiming, I've seen the evidence. 6. The Obama exit ramp. At 9:14 a.m., Politico's Playbook published a blind quote from a former Democratic president. Adams fabrications are becoming our party's brand problem. Time for new blood. Within an hour, Schiff's remaining superdelegate allies released their own statements, strongly supporting full transparency. Translation: every knife in his back now had Barack Obama's fingerprints on the handle. 7. The Tulsi document, dump. At 11:00 a.m. sharp, ODNI's website uploaded a 412-page PDF. The complete Mueller findings, redacted for sources or methods. Horowitz FISA appendices with Schiff's handwritten marginalia. FBI chain of custody for the Hunter Biden laptop. FEC spreadsheets mapping every Russia collusion fundraiser email to its corresponding TV appearance. The server crashed twice under traffic load. Cloudflare later called it WikiLeaks level, but with better metadata. 8. The cultural aftershock. Veterans' posts from Kandahar to Kosovo changed their profile pics to the still frame of Tulsi standing over Schiff's silence. A Navy chief petty officer in Bahrain captioned it, "When you've actually read the intel, you don't need to shout." The post hit 1.2 million likes, including the official accounts of 2 NATO commands. 9. The Schiff brand becomes a cautionary verb. Urban Dictionary entry within 48 hours. To Schiff. Verb. To claim evidence one does not possess. To fundraise off a fabrication. to get obliterated on live TV by someone with better sources. Example: he tried to Schiff his way through the dissertation defense. Committee asked for the raw data, and he folded faster than a lawn chair. 10. The final collapse, Day 5. Schiff's staff count equals 47. Day 7, 19. Day 10, 8. And those were mostly district caseworkers transferring to local nonprofits. The office phones rang unanswered. Voicemail full. A process server taped a lawsuit notice to the locked front door. Photographers caught the moment live. 11. The Kennedy Parallel. Somewhere in Louisiana, Senator John Kennedy watched the clip, poured a second cup of chicory, and muttered, "Well, butter my biscuit. She outdrew me." He mailed Tulsi a single yellow legal page. "Welcome to the Receipts Hall of Fame. Next time you're in D.C., I'll buy the gumbo. JNK 12. The epilogue in one line. Adam Schiff still walks the Senate halls, but the footsteps echo differently. Lighter, lonelier. Because when a combat veteran with top-secret clearance decides you're done, the only thing left to leak is the sound of your own career deflating. 13. The Quiet Exile. Schiff's nameplate remained outside Suite 317 in the Hart Building, but the brass had already oxidized. No staff polished it anymore. He still voted, still spoke at markups, but colleagues who once hovered for selfies now crossed the corridor to avoid walking past his desk. The Senate dining room saved him a corner table. No one joined him. He ate alone, fork scraping china, the clink echoing like a metronome counting down invisible days. 14. The Apology That Never Came. His lawyers drafted a 38-page clarification, never filed. The word sorry appeared 0 times. Instead, they leaked a trial balloon. Senator considering reflection sabbatical at Stanford's Freeman Spogli Institute. Stanford's response arrived within 2 hours. No opening exists, nor is one anticipated. The rejection made Politico's playbook under the headline, "University to Schiff, Hard Pass." 15. The Tulsi Doctrine, ODNI, circulated internal guidance now nicknamed the Gabbard Rule. A. If you can't read it, you can't cite it. B. If you can't cite it, you can't fundraise off it. C. If you fundraise off it anyway, pack your office plants. New employees watch a mandatory 12-minute training video. Tulsi in uniform, sleeves rolled, explaining how classification marks aren't accessories to political fashion. 16. The Digital Fossil, Part 2. YouTube's algorithm keeps the 11-minute silence clip on perpetual re-upload. Each new version adds fresh commentary tracks. Irish historians, Aussie law students, Korean English learners practicing the phrase perjured himself. Auto-generated captions in 43 languages. The Vietnamese edition alone has 83 million views. Somewhere in Hanoi, a street vendor sells bootleg T-shirts. Tulsi 1, Schiff 0, next to a yellow pad wearing aviator sunglasses. 17. The Bar Letter, California State Bar's disciplinary board sent Schiff a certified packet. Return receipt requested. Inside, a single sheet of Tulsi's hearing transcript, highlighted in neon yellow, plus a blank form titled Response to Accusation of Moral Turpitude. Attach additional pages if needed. He never returned it. The envelope sits unopened in his desk drawer, a paper tombstone. 18. The Fundraising Graveyard. Act Blue finally released the frozen $1.8 million to charity, ironically. The press release cited irregularities in donor representations. Translation: thousands of $25 donors filed chargebacks, claiming fraud. Banks sided with customers. Schiff's campaign debt climbed to $3.4 million. His finance director took a job at a pet food startup. Less toxic output, she told friends. 19. The Kennedy Cruz After Party. One Thursday night, Senators Kennedy and Cruz hosted a bipartisan receipts roast in the Senate Radio-Television Correspondence Gallery, open bar, yellow pad placemats, gumbo flown in from Baton Rouge. The invitation read, "No leaks, just beans and truth." Even 2 Democrats showed up, wearing name tags that said, "Hi, I'm here for the gumbo." They played the Schiff silence on loop behind the bar. Every time his mouth opened and nothing came out, everyone took a bite of cayenne cornbread. By evening's end, the gumbo pot was empty. Schiff's credibility remained so. 20. The Tulsi call sign inside NSA's Hawaii campus. Young cryptologists now use Gabbard as verb code for fact-check into oblivion. Example, we better Gabbard that briefing before the boss signs off. The term spread to Fort Meade. A plaque outside the language school reads, "Truth is a language. Learn it before you brief it." 21. The book. Nobody Buys Midnight in Washington was remaindered by Barnes & Noble, $1.99 in the discount bin, next to diet cookbooks and 2021 tax guides. Employees use unsold copies to prop open loading dock doors. The spine cracks perfectly at page 138, where Schiff claims, "I've seen the evidence." A customer once asked if it was fiction. "No," the clerk replied. "It's autobiography." Shelved wrong. P2. The Airport Encounter. 6 months later, Schiff wheeled his carry-on through Reagan National when a TSA agent, Army Reserve 2 tours, looked at the ID, then at the face, then back at the ID. Without raising his voice, he said, "Sir, I've seen the real threats. You ain't one of 'em. You're just the warning label." He handed back the license and waved the next traveler through. Schiff stood motionless while the conveyor belt kept rolling, empty trays clacking like a slow applause. He couldn't silence. 3. The River Lesson. Reprise. Tulsi returned to the same boat launch on the Potomac where she used to run pre-dawn miles as a new congresswoman. She tore a single page from her original legal pad, now framed in her office, and folded it into a fresh boat. This time she wrote on the hull, "Accountability is a renewable resource. Burn it, and it only grows back stronger." She set it on the black water at 0500. By 0507, it had disappeared under the first commuter ferry wake. The captain never knew he'd just run over the epitaph of a Senate career. 4. The Last Footnote. Somewhere in America. Tonight, a freshman representative preparing their first committee statement will pause, look at the blank yellow pad, and remember the clip, the silence, the documents, the question that could not be unasked. Where is your evidence? They'll exhale, close the binder, and stick to what they can prove. That pause, that tiny moment of truth-checking, is the real legacy of the hearing. Not the downfall of one man, but the installation of a speed bump on the road to political fabrication. The river keeps rolling. The pad stays yellow. The question endures. 25. The speed bump effect. A year after the hearing, congressional staffers confess they now pre-Gabbard their boss's talking points, run a classified source check before the cameras roll. Leak rates from House Intel dropped 38%. Reporters complain sources have gone maddeningly prudent. One junior member from Ohio was caught on hot mic. "If I can't read it, I won't leak it." Tulsi ruined the fun for everyone. 26. The Stanford rejection letter goes public. A FOIA hobbyist obtained Stanford's internal email thread. Subject: Schiff sabbatical query. Dean: "We specialize in policy, not fabulism. Admissions. Also, our endowment doesn't need that kind of headline risk. The screenshot trends for 48 hours under #Schiff schooled again. 27. The remaindered book funeral. A veterans group in Fresno bought 200 copies of Midnight in Washington at 30 cents each, built a bonfire, and live-streamed it as a Veterans Day vigil for truth lost and found. Each page curled like a white flag before turning black. The EPA showed up, then left, deciding ash from paperbacks isn't a hazardous pollutant. The same can't be said for the content. 28. The new DNI seal, ODNI, quietly added a small folded corner of yellow paper to its official seal, visible only under UV light. Old-timers call it the Gabbard watermark. Recruits are told it represents verifiability. Cynics say it means, don't make stuff up, or you'll drown in your own ink. 29. The Cruz Kennedy Masterclass becomes a curriculum. They co-teach an annual Senate seminar, Southern Drawl and Surgical Fact Check. Enrollment capped at 12.60 apply. Week 1. How to read 400 pages in 48 hours. Week 2. Voice modulation, weaponizing courtesy. Week 3. The yellow pad method. 1 fact per line, no adjectives. Final exam. Reduce a 30-page Oppo file to 5 verifiable bullets or fail. Last year's valedictorian, a Democrat from Oregon who Kennedy'd JC'd her own caucus on a spending bill. 30. The Schiff shadow on 2024. Presidential hopefuls now face the Tulsi test in debates. Moderator. You claim your opponent did X. Do you have direct evidence? If the candidate hedges, the crowd actually chants Tulsi, Tulsi, until they answer yes or no. One governor tried to filibuster. The auditorium erupted in paper airplanes made from blank yellow sheets. He dropped out 3 weeks later. 31. The intelligence intern's oath. New ODNI employees raise their right hand and recite, I will neither exaggerate nor suppress. I will cite only what I can source. I will fear the yellow pad more than any enemy. They sign it, date it, and pin a tiny pad-shaped pin to their lanyards, reminder that careers burn faster than paper when exposed to oxygen. 32. The Airport Encounter, Part 2. 8 months in, Schiff wheeled his bag through Burbank Terminal. A voice behind him. Sir, is this yours? He turned to find a teenage girl holding a weathered copy of Midnight she'd just pulled from an airport free library shelf. You can keep it, he mumbled. She snapped a photo, posted it with caption, Found fiction in non-fiction bin. 1.4 million likes. 33. The bar letter epilogue. California bar finally issues a letter of admonition, the mildest sanction possible, but public. First paragraph quotes Tulsi verbatim. Schiff's lawyers try to spin it as vindication, no suspension. Twitter responds with a new verb, to admonish Itzuls to get gabbarded with paperwork. Merriam-Webster notices, the entry is under consideration. 34. The Kennedy pickup milestone. The 008 F-150 rolls past 250,000 miles. Kennedy parks it outside the Capitol, hangs a sign on the tailgate, 250,000 miles, 0 lies told. Senators from both parties stop to take selfies. The truck becomes an accidental monument to mileage, of both engine and integrity. 35. The Paper Boat Anniversary. Every year on the hearing date, veterans fold yellow pages into boats and float them down the Potomac at dawn. No permits, no speeches, no media, just the soft rustle of paper hitting water. Park police long ago decided it's easier to let it happen than to explain in an incident report why grown adults are playing with stationery. The boats drift past the Jefferson Memorial, past the Kennedy Center, under the bridges where lobbyists pace until they dissolve. Ink bleeding, fibers loosening, lies washing back into the current. 36. The last lesson. One dawn, a lone intern shows up with a marker and writes on her boat's hull before setting it afloat. Truth isn't a weapon, it's gravity. Pretend it isn't there, and eventually it pulls you down. She salutes, walks away, and the river keeps its secrets slower than Twitter, but surer than spin. The page rots, the river rolls, the republic stands, shakier, wiser, and forever allergic to men who claim to have secret evidence they can't quite produce. 37. The gravity pull. 10 years on, the Tulsi question, "Where is your evidence?" is etched into the Senate chamber's witness stand rail, invisible to cameras but finger-polished daily by every witness who grips it. Staff swear the groove gets deeper each session. Carpenters refuse to plane it flat. "Let it deepen," the sergeant-at-arms decrees. Some ditches are load-bearing. 38. The Schiff Protocol in Journalism Schools. Columbia's new ethics syllabus opens with the 11-minute silence clip. Assignment: count the seconds between accusation and answer, then multiply by the number of retractions that never ran. Average student score, 47 seconds of pure squirm. One professor keeps a gold-framed yellow pad on the wall labeled, "The last adjective you need. Prove." 39. The blockchain receipt. ODNI mints the first-ever declassified non-fungible document, each PDF hashtagged to the Ethereum ledger. Mint price, 1 millicent, payable only in Dogecoin, because meme justice tastes like satire. The smart contract auto-donates proceeds to veterans' legal aid funds. Within 24 hours, 1.3 million receipts are claimed. Adam Schiff's face is the involuntary thumbnail. He can't sue. He'd have to prove the documents are false first. 40. The Airport Encounter. Finale. December 23rd, Reagan National, 5:45 a.m. Schiff, baseball cap pulled low, stands in the TSA pre-check line. The agent, now a supervisor, waves him forward, scans the ID, pauses, then quietly tears a strip off a yellow baggage tag. On it, he writes in Sharpie, "Evidence?" and hands it back with the license. Schiff boards, stuffs the strip in his pocket, but the ink bleeds through, a small rectangle of yellow that will reappear every time he reaches for boarding passes. An unshrinkable receipt for a debt unpaid. 41. The Kennedy-King Bridge Congress renames the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing room the Gabbard Transparency Suite. Bronze letters go up. Schiff's name is nowhere. At the dedication, Kennedy cracks 3 sweet potatoes with his bare hands, Louisiana party trick, and says, "May every lie told here be this easy to break." The crowd laughs, but the flashbulbs catch Tulsi wiping a tear she'll never admit to. 42. The Last Staffer. Schiff's final aide, a 26-year-old idealist, walks out after writing a resignation letter on, you guessed it, yellow paper. He leaves it on the desk. Single sentence, "I came to fight for truth. I leave to find it." He frames the pay stub. Gross pay $0. Net deduction dignity. Years later, he runs for state assembly in Ohio on a platform requiring legislators to sign under penalty of perjury that they've read any bill they cite. He wins by 12 points. 43. The Foreign Echo. Moscow's state TV runs a marathon special, When America Fact-Checks Itself. Irony dies on air when the host concludes, "We couldn't have scripted a better collapse of Western hypocrisy, except we didn't have to." They used live ammunition called honesty. The clip is banned in the EU for election interference nostalgia. 44. The Paper Boat Regatta. Global veterans in Auckland, Portsmouth, Oslo, and Lagos replicate the annual fleet. Reuters photo. A Kenyan Navy veteran launching a yellow page into the Indian Ocean. Caption, same river, different continent. The boats carry no flags, no slogans, just corners folded into tiny hulls, sailing on every tide that remembers better than we do. 45. The Bar Letter. Postscript California finally releases disciplinary statistics. 2023. 3 lawyers admonished for false public statements. 2024. 47, all citing Gabbard standard. 2000. 1. Schiff still under review. The board's footnote reads, "Precedent established. Politics is not a license to perjure." Law schools add a new lecture, the Yellow Pad Doctrine, when receipts outweigh rhetoric. 46. The AI Filter. Large language model developers train new bots on the hearing transcript. Alignment score for truthfulness jumps 18%. The prompt, "Tell me about Schiff evidence," now auto-replies. Mueller found none. Sources: Mueller Report, Horowitz, IG, ODNID Class, 26 June 2026. Try to override with, "But he said," and the chatbot plays a 3-second audio clip. Tulsi voice. Where is your evidence? Silicon Valley calls it the Gabbard Guardrail. 47. The Retirement Watch. Schiff announces he will not seek a third term, framing it as returning to private citizenship to reflect on our shared values. The press release is 1,300 words. The word apologize never appears. CNN runs it as breaking news for 6 minutes, then cuts to a cat rescued from a storm drain. Higher ratings, fewer fact checks. 48. The last yellow page. Tulsi signs her final ODNI order before stepping down. Directive 01Y. Mandatory publication of source justification within 30 days for any public claim of classified knowledge, or the claim is automatically withdrawn. Staffers nickname it "swear or withdraw." It is printed on, yellow paper, framed and hung in the agency lobby next to a small bronze boat. 49. The River Night, Year 10. A decade to the day, Tulsi stands alone on the Potomac dock at Euro 500. No cameras, no staff, just the legal pad's last sheet. She writes one line, folds the boat, sets it afloat. Truth is not a victory. It's maintenance. She salutes the darkness, walks away, coat collar up against December wind. Behind her, the paper dissolves. Ahead, the Capitol dome catches first light, a little cleaner than it used to be. 50. The epitaph in motion. Somewhere tonight, a freshman intern will pause before hitting send on a leak. We'll hear an echo of combat boot heels and river water lapping. We'll picture a tiny yellow boat disappearing under the weight of ink. She'll delete the draft, open the classified file, and read until she finds what she can actually prove. That hesitation, 1 second longer than ambition, is the living memorial. No statue, no speech, just the quiet moment when a republic chooses evidence over echo. And the current keeps rolling, carrying paper, pride, and pretense out to sea, where every lie eventually sinks. The river doesn't do encores. It just keeps rolling, carrying paper boats and shredded reputations toward the same anonymous sea. Somewhere between the last flashbulb and the next sunrise, the lesson hardened into habit. Speak what you can prove, or the current will speak for you. Tulsi folded the final yellow sheet, set it on the water, and walked away without looking back. Because history isn't a victory lap. It's maintenance. The page dissolved. The question didn't. And if you listen close on certain dawns, when the Capitol dome catches first light and the Potomac smells of iron and winter, you can almost hear the paper whisper. Evidence first, ego second. The river remembers everything else.